Next item will be the minutes from the October 8th, 2024 business meeting. And hopefully you've all had an opportunity to review last month's meetings. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Is there
I
any-
second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to the next order of business, the executive director updates. A few items that we have. First, one item that's not on there is I'd like to welcome and introduce to the commission. We have a new individual, our staff. Julianne Hatton is now part of the commission staff, so we're welcoming her to her first meeting and opportunity to meet you all. So we expect for those here and virtually, maybe hearing from Julianne in regards to the work that we're doing here at the commission. So we're looking forward to having her join us and continue on with that. The first item on the updates is just the Kentucky Opioid Symposium. And I first of all want to thank the commission members who participated and were able to come and take time out of your schedule. We appreciate all of you and know you're all busy, but I think it was helpful for those who came to be able to hear from you, to be able to interact with you, and to be able to see firsthand your participation in this. So thanks to all of that. One of the things also to put on the record is that the event was sold out. So we had a full house, received positive reviews on all the panels and presentations. And again, want to thank those who served on panels or made presentations to the symposium. We had an outstanding group of individuals who were able to participate and assist us, so we want to make sure that we were able to grant them. The other thing which we received a lot of positive feedback on was the Hall of Grantees and having the opportunity for those 2023 grantees to be able to display the work that they do and highlight them and uplift them and show their work to those who came through was one of the highlights I think that we've consistently heard from individuals about the attendance and the benefit they got from that. So again, we want to thank those organizations and look forward to seeing the next crop next year at the next symposium moving forward with that. The second item on the director's updates is the request for information. That solicitation is still open until December 2nd. And so we can expect that next steps will be moving forward at the January meeting in terms of what that looks like and moving forward. But again, that solicitation is open. We want to make sure that people are aware that that's out there and that that is available to them. The third item on the updates is the review of the notice of funding opportunities. So the prevention and the treatment and recovery notice of fundings will be going out as separate notices of funding this year, as has been discussed with the commission, to make sure that those are also going to incorporate the recommendations and the priorities that this commission has put forward. So as you all see that and review that, you recognize that those documents reflect your views in terms of what the commission should look for and support in terms of those two groups of it. We will make sure that that goes through. I want to provide some of the important dates also calendar-wise so you all have this and have a sense of what it looks like. The official announcement release we anticipate will be November 18th. And the application window would run from December 2nd, 2024 to January 17th, 2025, with the deadline being January 17th, 2025 at 6 p.m. And then we would look to have the award decision notices be in late March or April that would go through, and that would allow for the contracts to be executed in July 2025 and put us on schedule. I want to make sure for the commission members to highlight then that would put January and March as times where review would take place. And so commission staff will be working with you to make sure that we can schedule this accordingly as we move forward based on the applications. So I wanted to make sure again that information came out and was going through. I do have one addition to the updates and some new business as it would be recalled also. We identified that we needed to bring something before the commission to make sure that we can get your views and thoughts on this regarding a previously approved grant. So what I'm going to have is Deputy Director Halliday explain a little bit of the background on this for you all to hear that, and then we will ask you all to vote in terms of what it looks like with moving forward on this process. With that, Jesse?
Thank you. So I think, as you know, in the first round of grants that were awarded by the commission, most of those contracts ended on August 31st. over the course of the last year or so, we've had a lot of changes in terms of how those were going to be reported into our system for quarterly reports. We've had communications, and frankly, we're learning a lot as we go. So one of the grantees from that first round that expired on August 31st, Revive Ministries, didn't expend all their funds by August 31st. They had approximately $34,000 that they had allocated, but just didn't get spent, and weren't aware of what our process for modification was. And we, as I mentioned, had different messages going out throughout the year. So I think it didn't register, right, that was coming up. And so and they had some delays. They're doing some repair, and 20-ish thousand, just slightly over 20,000, is to finish this renovation and work that you all approved previously. So what I wanted to bring forward to the commission today is we think we can issue a new contract. They already have the money. They brought this to our attention that they had the money left as they were filling out their final quarterly report. We didn't find it in our review, so they were very forthcoming about what had happened. They've put a hold. It would be a total of about $34,000 that would cover expenses from September that they had planned, which were, staff and other projects that they had gotten approved, and then this additional $20,000 to order the final pieces of equipment for their renovation. They put a pause on the ordering since they knew that they were past their contract. So what I'm asking permission from the commission is for staff to work with them to create the contracts that's necessary for them to spend that money. Again, no changes to what was originally in their ask. They're asking to spend it the way it was approved, but since it would require probably a new contract, make sure that you're all comfortable with us moving forward with that, and that you all approve us trying to do that new contract.
I would make a motion that we issue a new contract for the amount that's left remaining with the purposes of finishing their construction or remodeling project.
Second.
Any other comments from you?
I have one comment really quickly. If we do this kind of thing, is this going to be our policy going forward? Do we have any other people who might have the same scenario?
So I'll answer that for this discussion we've had. There's been a lot of education and process which have been put in place to address that, so that people will be clear and that we will not have the confusion that currently took place. So there are actually been steps that have been included that are being taken to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So no, this will not be a course of practice which the commission we would bring forward to you. We think this, based on the circumstances, warrants the opportunity to have this engagement.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have the same concerns voiced by Vaughn, and I believe this should be Okay, now it lit up. Sorry. It was lit up, and now it's a bright green. So I agree with Ms. Purdy's concern that this not become a course of action with us, or a routine course of action with us, and that your response to her should be adopted as policy by the commission. Otherwise, we'll find ourselves doing this all the time when we can put a stop to it now.
Just to let
I'm going to chime in here. This is Karen. I've dealt with a lot of tax dollars, and I think just making an arbitrary policy that we wouldn't allow somebody to expend. I mean, emergencies happen, people get sick, projects get put on hold for various reasons. Federal agencies actually by practice are allowed to extend the dollars for a certain number of years that Congress appropriates. And not that we have to do it because Congress does, but I just feel like, or federal agencies do, I just feel like we're setting ourselves up to turn somebody down that may be in dire straits in the future. It's one thing to have a policy, it's another thing to really take it case by case and listen to what extenuating circumstances people have. It doesn't mean that you have to approve it, but I do think we should be in the practice of listening instead of being bureaucrats that just rubber stamp things. No. That's my 2 cents worth.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with that. If you take each of those applications for extension on a case-by-case basis, there may be.
Excuse me, I can't hear. Let me see.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. There may be.
Thanks, sorry. I can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you, sorry.
There may be meritorious extenuating circumstances, and I think that is the right point to make. How many of these applications have we had to deal with where there was a situation like the one we're dealing with now?
So just to help explain what we've done as a process, which I think will alleviate some of your concerns, Treasurer Metcalf, we have extended and made modifications on about half of the contracts from the contracts that we issued for that first period that ended in August. What is different is that we are now clear that we need to have time to do that and that there needs to be a modification process in place, which there hadn't been. We'd been doing that via email and by direct outreach from the grants. This fell through the cracks in that regard because we didn't send a blanket reminder to everyone to get us their modifications. So what we've done now is we have a process in place where we've communicated with everyone whose grants are expiring in December or January and told them when they need to make their modification requests. And then for the 2024 grants, we have a modification form that we have had a grantee meeting, which we had never had before, of all the people who got contracts in October. We made very clear on that meeting what the process would be, that there is a modification form and it needs to be submitted before we run out of time in the contract. The reason we're asking for this extension is because it wasn't clear that if the contract ran out that we would have to ask for the money back. And so we don't anticipate having that problem in the future. We anticipate giving people repeated warnings that your contract is coming up. If you need an extension, we'll work with you. And so to answer your question, we've had about half of the grants that went out in 2023 have already asked for modifications. And when we asked again a week or so ago for those that are about to expire, we got several people responding quickly that they were going to need additional time.
Okay, does the process we have in place right now address those circumstances?
It does.
So that Commissioner Kelly's point is being addressed by our present protocol?
Yes.
So that if we do have extenuating circumstances, we can address situations like Commissioner Kelly was worried about?
Yes, we could still bring back an individual case, but I believe our process and this warning will help maybe alleviate that.
Okay.
And that process sounds more typical for a grant where you can request in advance carry forward if you realize you won't expend the funds, which is more, I think, appropriate than trying to spend money that you're forced to spend quickly. So, but they resubmit a budget, they resubmit a request, they have a deadline. It's only those cases where they miss the deadline. In those cases, we would generally not approve it if they didn't follow unless there was some extenuating circumstances.
Yes, and the difference here was that they made the request post the expiration of the contract, which they weren't aware they needed to do prior. They did come to us, they just didn't come to us enough in advance for us to make the change in the state process due to all the state regulations.
And we've got that situation addressed now.
Yes, sir.
As a grantor and a grantee, these are pretty common situations. They occur a lot for just various reasons. I had one grant to a community mental health center in Bowling Green to do some work. They couldn't find a contractor for a year because they just couldn't. Everybody, there was a building boom going on there, and it just wasn't. They couldn't find anybody. That doesn't mean it wasn't a good project, and I wanted to fund it. But just things happen. So I'm glad that we're addressing it in the manner of what you said, Jesse.
But we feel it's been communicated now, Jesse, so we may not have those sorts of issues again, or we just depends on, I mean, we do have policy procedures and that sort of thing. We feel like it's been being addressed the way you managed it.
I think we're giving people more warning. I think we're having more transparent conversations with our contractees and our grantees early on, and making sure they're clear on the requirements of their contract and what the process will be, and that they do need to ask for prior approval before making changes to how they expend the funds, whether that's changing line items or asking to shift funds. And our process has been, if it meets the four corners of what you all approved and it's just slight modifications in line items, we're approving those. If it's something substantial, we would take on a case-by-case basis whether it needs to come back before the commission or not.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Understanding now that there is a process which will help alleviate this and move this forward, I believe everybody's concerns have been addressed at this point in time. I'm trying to look to the screen also.
Mr. Chairman, I would move adoption of the rule as stated by Commissioner Ingram.
Okay. With that, we've got a motion to move this forward and a seconded. I had asked for a vote for all those approving the use as outlined above or outlined previously. May I have an aye?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you all. With that is the executive director's updates and the new business. At this point in time, I want to open the floor to commission members if there's any announcements or any discussion points which members want to bring forward.
I would just like to quickly say that the symposium was really, really good. OAG staff did a great job putting that together, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Anybody else or anybody online?
I too just want to say I think it was a great symposium as well. I heard some feedback from it in my area, and it was just, and I want to thank, I know a lot of times staff gets forgotten when doing these sorts of things, but I want to say kudos to the entire staff for all the hard work that was put in to make a successful conference. It really was well done, well thought out. And just the fact that we had the area with the grantees was really a great plus. So thank you all, because I just know we know your hard work and it has not gone unnoticed. So thank you for everything.
I just want to say good job on the symposium, and I also want to go on record and say CATS, 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 cats.
All right.
Was that a shameless plug? What was that?
There's a big game tonight, in case you didn't know.
Oh.
Okay. That being said, we appreciate all the comments, and I'd like to echo also the thank you to the staff in terms of the work that they put in to make that event happen. Was more than people recognize and realize. So we're very appreciative of them and the work that it took to put that on. Moving forward with that, if there's no other comments from the commissioners, I would open this time for any public comments. I'm not sure if anybody has signed up or not. For those online, we're going to check to make sure there's no public comments. Pending that, okay. So I've heard that we do not have any public comments. So that being the case, we will move forward, and I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Make a motion.
I have a motion, and get a second.
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 Ms. Dallin, any discussion?
No, I just want to say I just looked at the schedule, and you're right, Darren. Go Cats.
Appreciate that.
All right. That being our discussion, all in favor for adjournment?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you very much, everybody. We adjourn today's session.
Playing at my bedtime, 9:30.
It's pretty late. Just take a nap.
That was generous.